What is up, beautiful people? It's Wolfbrother Mythos. This is Wolfbrother Hobbies. Welcome to tonight's show. Tonight, I am. I've been doing audit prep stuff for a startup at one of my accounts. So I am mentally burned out. I really haven't caught up in any of the Warhammer news this week. Um, so I just want to do a chill paint and chat tonight, and I'm working on a friend's Baneblade tonight. So while I do that, I figured I'd include you guys instead of missing out on a stream, heaven forbid, because I like chatting with my peeps. Even if I'm not prepared to cover news or even understand any rules at the moment. Um, yeah, even though my brain is mush right now, I figured I could just relax, do some painting with my friends, and do it on stream. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. I even have incorporated a little painting cam that I'm working with right now. And this is not ghetto rigged whatsoever. I totally don't have my camera blue tacked to the desk right now, but I got a little painting cam going on. And so, yeah, we'll be able to, just kind of make painting the focal point of the chat tonight. And, yeah, I've got my little bit of John Carpenter's in the background, a little music going on. Or John Carpenter themed music rather. And yeah, we're just gonna chill, chat. Like I said, I've got the little bit of music there. If there are any quiet parts while I get distracted painting, because I do that sometimes. Sometimes when I'm focused in painting, I get a little distracted, but it's all good. And yeah, hopefully you guys will just, keep me some company, and hopefully some of you will even enjoy. So but before we get into that, what you guys got for a pork chop? What you all been up to? What kind of hobby have you been up to? Let me know. The people, and I mean this guy right here, the people want to know. Man, I've been in meetings, virtual meetings all day. And sometimes I think having these headsets on, puts a little strain on my neck. My neck feels a little tense. Should have taken some Tylenol before the show started. But I'm excited to hear what you guys have been up to. You guys can see the Baneblade I've been working on. I've also started on the Rogeldorn. So you guys may remember last week when I was here, I had some concerns. Yeah, adulting does suck, my brother. I had some concerns that for the last 3 weeks I'd had some trouble with the airbrush, and I think my Iwata's kaput. It is just not acting right, and I got myself a cheap little Masters, cheap and cheerful, like $25 on Amazon. Now, a lot of people hate the Masters, but the Masters is where I grew up. That's where I learned to airbrush, and it's not steered me wrong. Sure, I had some challenges with it in the beginning, but when I learned on that, that's where I built my skills. Not that I'm the most skilled, not that I'm I prefer the phrase mildly competent, and that might be stretching it. But that's where I built my ability to use the airbrushes with the Master. So while a lot of people hate it, I've got some love for it, and it's a good in between brush while I save up for a new airbrush. So anyways, the Masters is going to work for now, and it helped me, get colors down on the Rogeldorn, which still needs its camo pattern. And that's the next thing I want to show you. And I'm not sure how well, because I don't have the best lighting over here at this desktop, but did I shove it into the screen? Yeah. There we go. Nobody shoves baby in the corner. Where did my picture go? Did I shove me in the corner? Oh, well. My face is not required for this. Yeah, you can kind of see it. It is definitely, it's Castellan green and Nocturne green. So colors picked out by the client or by my friend. And so it's kind of a subtle shift, but you know you can kind of see the camo patterns there, and I suspect you'll be able to see it a lot more clearly once the matte varnish goes down, because just that little bit of sheen and shimmer to it, I'm sure kind of detracts from being able to clearly see the delineating lines. But yeah, so not only is my airbrush working for me now that I've got the masters in, but it's working well enough that I can do things like this camo pattern. I see it. Good, good. I hope you're doing well, Health Child, my man. We need to hang. It's been a hot minute, brother. So yes, I have been doing that. I have the big fat cannon around here somewhere, because I have on the stream listed as a Baneblade. It is a Baneblade variant. In truth, it's the Shadow Sword. And so it's going to have this big old monstrous cannon on it. You know, one capable of slaying titans. So that's good. And of course, I added the pattern to the cannon as well. And it's funny, I'm looking online because it's so green. And obviously, I still need to do the tracks. The tracks are one big component I'm going to be taking on today. Mr. Fish and Prepper Book Club. Thomas the Tank. Good evening, guys. I hope you're doing well. Where's that tank on your desk? I can only see your head. It's so camo. It's hiding. Happy freaking Friday. Whoa. Oh, man. Yeah, I hope you guys are doing awesomely. Welcome to the show. Happy Friday night. So I was looking online at how I want to break this up, looking at some like the Warhammer, the Games Workshop page, and, you know, some different, like, you know, just Google picks for inspiration, seeing where I want to add in other colors to break this up. And I didn't realize that most guard players just leave most of this the armor color. Like, I still need to obviously do the biggest thing that's not being broken up right now is the tracks. So I need to silver out the tracks and the heavy bolters, but like a lot of the details on here, looking online, a lot of it stays green. So that's kind of interesting. You know, one thing I was noticing, and I never thought about this for my own tanks, is that I'm like, why do we all paint our tracks silver, right? Because when I'm looking at pictures of, like, you know, IRL tanks, aren't most of the time they're like you know, different shades of like a very dark brown with some like lighter, dustier or rustier browns. You know, aren't they like just very flat looking metal and not, you know, steel colored? Oh, thank you so much, gorgeous. Some Tylenol. Even though I've been instructed not to take Tylenol, nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. I'll show you later. But I enjoy my Tylenol, and I can't have NSAIDs because I have pancreatitis. So, oh, that's good. It'll be good for the next strain. Another thing I didn't realize is, I guess because I've been painting Space Marine tanks so long, Darklight Dreamer, my brother. Hey, I just read your cyberpunk questions earlier today. I apologize for not getting back to you earlier, Darklight. Just yesterday and today have been so swamped with audit stuff, and I ended up working late both days. So I will get back to you on that. I have not been meaning to ignore you. But something, I guess because I've been painting Space Marine tanks so long, I didn't realize that these Aquila on Imperial Guard tanks are actually steel color, not gold color. which I'm glad I looked up because I was ready to slap gold all over these Aquillas, and I'm sure that would make them less camo and more stand out. So I'm glad I checked that out. In fact, all the Baneblade examples I looked at, they were all steel. Well, I'm glad you're alive, my brother. Also, if anyone has any good reference pics, I have yet to see some good reference pics. Sometimes finding the angle you want on reference pics can be a challenge. And I didn't realize there was like a whole little shrine at the back of a Baneblade, and I'm having trouble finding good inspiration pics on how to paint this up. So if anyone's got any good inspiration pics for that back there, or they want to show me how they painted theirs, feel free to shoot that over to me so that I can learn from you. I can always use some good inspiration. The mind's call. Have a good night. Good night, brother. Don't work too hard. So that is what I'm doing tonight. Now, speaking of my pork chop, you guys know I usually like to cover some of my other updates with you, like Media Corner, video games I've been playing as part of my hobby, even though, it's not a desktop hobby. It's still kind of my hobby, I do enjoy some video games. I haven't really had much of a chance for video games this week. Got in a couple matches of Overwatch with my wife this week, just enough to knock out my dailies, really, and get that sweet XP. But Darklight Dreamer and I are finally caught up to the current season. Well, I'm not caught up. We've started the current season of Jujutsu Kaisen and watched the previous seasons and the OVA movie of the prequel before that. So we're on the current season now. We're about 2 episodes into the current season of Jujutsu Kaisen, and that is really good. My lovely Mrs. Lily and I are on season 2 of Fallout, and we've got about 3 episodes left to be current on Fallout. So pretty fun stuff there. Nightbot just put up the latest tutorial out from Brother Rob, and Brother Rob's not here tonight, but I would highly encourage, if you haven't checked out his Wolf Priest tutorial, check that out. Very great, very good video on painting up his Wolf Priests, and he does it in 2 different styles, which is cool. One he does in the traditional red robes, and another he does up some leather looking robes similar to the Judiciar. So that's pretty cool. Also on his channel is a recent interview with the legend Kenny Boucher of Next Level Painting, and the podcast The Long War, and it's a really good interview. I highly recommend checking it out, especially as Kenny Boucher is one of my favorite painters of all time, alongside Brother Rob. Don't tell him. Both of those are up there with some of my favorites, such as Elstonation, of course, Sam Lenz. Those are some of my hobby heroes. So going back to what I was saying earlier about, I'm surprised that we all paint our tank treads silver when I feel like in real life they're usually, shades of like, brown, sometimes kind of like a really, some rusty colors, or even like a maroon kind of color. I'm just going to heavily weather the heck out of these treads, just really dirty them up. So I'm going to start from metallic, and then we'll just really knock the shine out of them. So please let me know what you guys have been up to this week. Have you guys had a chance to get in any hobby? Oh man, I want to move this chat box since I don't have Brother Rob with me tonight. We'll have up in the corner. That way you guys can see me slapping down these silvers. I don't really feel like it's really showing up that I'm actually laying down color. It looks like I'm just giving the thing a tickle, but oh my gosh, I feel so disrespectful. What channel is that? That does contrast corner, and when he dips his paintbrush in the paint pot, he says, "Give it a little tickle." Is that Mob Hammer? Anyone ever seen the YouTube short series Contrast Corner? And of course, even though most people will never see the underside of the tank, we always paint the underside. Let's upgrade for these big old tracks. Tickle in the tank. That's how we like to do it. How'd you spend your Friday night? I was tickling the tank, if you know what I mean. Finished up my last gobos for the backlog in 10th. You are going to start out with a clean slate in 11th edition. Are you a hobby unicorn? Fully backlog complete? No unpainted models? You're going to have to change your name from Mr. Fish to Mr. Unicorn, brother. The Hobby Unicorn, a rarity. Oh, Greg. Gamers with Coffee Greg, you got to step it up. Somebody's taking your title over here, man. Somebody actually adhering to the rule of no Warhammer until you paint the Warhammer you've got? They spoke legends of the man. The man who once was known as Fish. Got to make sure I don't get too crazy with this overbrushing of the treads, because, man, I would be upset if I messed up any of this pretty airbrushing with my over-enthusiastic overbrushing. I still have like 3K of Age of Sigmar to paint, so I'm not perfect. Just my 40K is. Oh, okay. Okay. Close to perfect, but not quite a unicorn yet. I gotta say, from doing a bunch of very careful Warhammer painting to being able to just overbrush and paint treads, kind of therapeutic. Almost. Not quite, because you don't get the dopamine hit from the finishing of a project, but very similar to just the laid back feeling when you put the black rim around your models at the end. But I mentioned earlier that I just wanted to do a chill paint and chat tonight because my brain was mush from doing some audit preps type stuff this week. And I feel like this right here, just silvering up some tracks. It's like some hobby therapy right here. You guys know I've had uh, philosophy for a while that hobby is therapy. And I feel like everybody should have some kind of creative outlet. Like, don't get me wrong, I love static hobbies too, like reading, video games. Those are great too. I love video games when I get a chance to sit down and do some gaming. That's so good. But I just feel like there's something very therapeutic about creative hobbies. The process of whether it's creating, or in this case, somebody else built this, but I'm the one painting it, enhancing even, you know, enchantment. Something about, I don't know, that process of creating or enhancing. It's just like very soothing. You have that drive to create. I must create. Speaking of creating, I've been really enjoying your writing work lately, Darklight. I like what you wrote out for your cyberpunk character. Speaking of which, I kind of want to pick your brain at some point to see if I can impose on you. But I don't want to do that over the net. So, just when we get a chance to chat away from the camera. I want to see if I can drive a proposal for you for something that will probably never happen and be way too hard to organize. But you would be the first person I talk to on that thought process. And just like that, the tank has one more layer of color. Way too bright for a battlefield tank, and I'm brightening it up just a little more still, but the reason I'm doing a second pass with the silver to brighten it up a little more is so that way when I put on the washes and powders later for weathering, it stands out a little more. Does that make any sense? I think a good phrase for brightening this up just to darken it back down is Kenny Boucher's famous phrase of taking it to 11 to bring it back down to 10. Knock it back down to 10. Of course. Sweet. Darklight, you should totally call in to work tomorrow so that way we can have another day of catching up on JJK. Man, I think this was a bad week for me to skip 40K news. Again, work circumstances. I just haven't really had a chance to lock in. But, between all of the preview games, apparently there was a lot of information dropped about the way that 11th edition is going to be played. And allegedly in one of some other language, the full 11th edition got dropped in another language. That would be cool, but I'm working a double, which is pretty much the opposite. Of course. And I know that. It's just, I was just dreaming, Dark Light Dreamer. All right. If you guys will pardon me for 1 second of not painting, or maybe I'll even share my screen. Yeah, let's do that. Duplicate. Shadow Sword. I see they don't have a spinny spin version of the Shadow Sword. All right, let's get to sharing. Dream maxing. There's the share screen button. The Baneblade. All right, so one of the things I like to do for inspo, of course, I always end up Googling and stuff like that to come up with just other sources of inspiration as well. But one of the places it starts for me is by seeing what's the box art, what's it quote unquote supposed to look like. And so I want to take a look at the top here. And I love these 360 views you can get on the GW website. So I can start getting ideas of what's it supposed to look like. And see, this is where I was talking about, where it kind of surprises me, like how much is actually not colored in. It's all the armor color. Like if you look up here, the inside of these vents are metallic. The antenna are metallic. The barrels of the cannon, which I was not expecting. Oh wait, no, that's that underneath armor color. The heavy stubber is metallic, but like all these little things on here, these I don't even know what this is. It's just a gubbin to me. The hatch, like all these are just the armor color. There's like no breakup. These little panels here, all armor color. I guess maybe because I play very colorful Space Marines, I feel the need to inject color into everything, and it doesn't need to be like that. As my former boss used to tell me all the time, "You're doing too much. You're doing too much, Mythos." I think I am going to make these exhaust pipes silver and then put my bloom at the top, though. I do love me a heat bloom. All right. Nope. We're not restarting the show. A Baneblade with Miami Vice's colors. Hell yeah. Although, not my tank. Zai, my man. What's up, brother? I almost bought 2 Baneblades this morning. That's awesome. Let's go with your Gene Stealer cult, I imagine. No much is too much. What a coincidence that you were about to buy a Baneblade, and here I am sitting painting one up. So, oh man, my lighting is terrible. You can tell that this is where my camera is because there's that dark spot right there. Bloop. There we go. Embrace muchness. You know, when it's my tanks, I tend to embrace the muchness. It's Baneblade. I'm sure you intended it. So I read that in my head in the Beyblade voice or Beyblade theme song. It's Baneblade. Great. Now every time I see this tank on the battlefield, I'm going to want to cry, "Let it rip." Oh yeah, I still need to get in some Beyblading with you now that I have a set, Razzie. Maybe I should bring it to one of our hangouts. You gotta fall down in the crowd to get back up again. Okay, so even though we saw on top, most of the stuff on top was just left armor color, right? But like, I'm not tripping, right? These little like pipes and stuff like that, they seem like they'd be metallic. Does it perfectly match what's going on in the box art? No, but like pipes are pipes, right? I'm glad you read it how I meant it. Of course, of course. I mean, just play Gene Stealer Colt with 3 Baneblades. No big deal. Oh, man. The last 2 narrative events I played against double Baneblade lists, and that was always scary to have on the other side of the table. You want you want to have some contrast. You can always wash them down if they end up too bright. Good thinking, brother. Good thinking. Yes, pipes are pipes, no matter the shape or size. That's right. Even if, they're a little smaller than the average pipe, or if they curve to one side, a pipe is a pipe. Over here, committing a cardinal sin of trying to paint these skinny pipes with the tip of the brush instead of an angle. There, there we go. It's a me, Mythios. I'm actually kind of glad to do this tonight because I've been wanting to try this desk setup for painting streams for a while. But, there's just been so much GW news coming out over the last few months that it just never really felt like a good time. Sometimes the tip is not the correct tool, even though everyone's favorite game is just the tip. Or even a Quadra Baneblade, Penta Baneblade, Ace. So now that I've just had a brain mush day with work, and I'm like, I couldn't concentrate on GW news if I wanted to tonight. And I've kind of just forced a paint and chat night. I can see This setup will work okay for a paint and chat. However, hey, I should try and figure out what happened to my face cam. That's a thing. Enter full screen, no. Minimize. Okay, now swap. That's what I meant to do. Okay, hey, there we go. And now exit full screen mode so I can see the chat. There we go. Does it matter? Not really. Nobody really needs to see my face, but you know. Can't get 5 Baneblade variants. Unfortunately, the cheapest is 410. That's true. Not in a 2,000 point list. We just need them to drop a little bit so we can get a penta. Like I was saying a minute ago, it is not the most ideal lighting, so I will need to find a lighting solution if I do these kinds of streams more often now. Also, you know, it would probably be helpful if I learned to paint. That's one other reason why I never took the step to be a paint streamer. Just because I'm like, you know, I don't think I paint well enough for that kind of thing. But maybe there's a market for mildly competent painting. Oh man, I have a little confession. You guys ever have a buildup of metallic right around the lid, and you get to painting, and you realize that you've got metallic on your thumb, and you're like, oh gosh, I hope I haven't left a thumbprint anywhere on the model. And then your heart kind of sinks because you start checking your model looking for that dreaded thumbprint. I did have to repaint a section. So now I keep checking my thumb every few minutes. You know, with 4 Baneblades and just like a troop or two, you'd basically be playing knights with better objective takers. You have trouble getting into these angles, like I'm able to do one half of the circle better than I am the other. Always remember, it's easier to rotate the miniature than it is to rotate your hand or your brush. All right, we got our vents done. Holy crap. Just looking at that screen, those vents are so bright. Like I said, we will wash them down, but whew. All right, let's take a look at our reference pick again. I feel like it's probably going. The answer is probably going to be leave them armor color, but I just want to check the reference picks to see if they do anything with the gubbins on the sponsons. Hey, it's Brother Atlas. That's a big chunk of plastic. Indeed, it is, brother. Indeed, it is. I hope you're doing well tonight. I was downloading the next Caiaphas Cain novel audiobook for my trip to Indy, and the Baneblade novel was front and center on my Audible recommended list. It made me think about a triple Bane or even quad Baneblade list. That is awesome. I think in the book Baneblade, they mentioned that for Baneblades is a Baneblade detachment. So I can see why you'd be interested in a 4 set. Like the cheapest way for 5 is 260 points. Yeah, that is a little too much. Everyone deserves to see your face. We all love seeing your face, Wolf brother. Thank you, brother. Yes to the Bob Mythos stream. I think you should combine painting and some Mythos positivity, do some Bob Ross style painting streams with no mistakes and only happy accidents. It's true. It's true. Oh, we put our thumbprint on the tank. We'll just paint in some happy little battle damage. All right, swapping over to the Spinishman picture. All right, nothing on the turrets from the side. Now you'll see here that the tip of the las cannon on this is actually back to the armor color. I've done mine fully in silver, so that way I can put my signatures heat bloom on the ends here. All right, so no details on the sponsons from the side. If we pull from the top, no, apparently no details there either. Well, that is good to know. All right, so let's see. I think the toe hooks I can metallic out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can. Yeah, it looks like I can metallic out the toe hooks. The heavy bolters, of course, the Aquila. Atlas, in all the time that you've been playing guard, I have never noticed before that all the Aquila on guard tanks are not gold. They're silver. I guess because I've been playing Space Marines too long. But I didn't realize that they're just, steel color. There's that spot I was mentioning earlier with the thumbprint. Can't afford that gold paint in the guard. It's true. It's true. Just going to go in with our original color, which in this case is Nocturne Green. Give that accidental silver spot a little tickle of Nocturne Green. And I know it looks like I'm painting it straight out of pot, but I have been airbrushing this paint so much that when they got to just half of a paint pot left, I just went back and thinned down the rest of the pot by putting some flow improver and a little water directly into the pot. I have done silver, gold, and bronze on my tanks and my troops. I like to think of it as time and service kind of thing for fluff reasons. That's fair. That's fair. Kind of the same way as the forehead studs on a Space Marine. You know, their color dictates their time and service as well. Give this a little tickle. There's probably no point giving this one a tickle until I finish silvering out this Aquila here. But, you know, when I first started painting, I used to get so mad at myself for any kind of misstrokes. And now it's just like, why did I get mad about that? You just paint over it, man. At the time, I was like, nah, I have to go back and fix my mistakes. But now I'm just like, that's part of the process. Of course, Mythos has always been hard on his own mistakes. But that's a story for another time. But it's good to know that, you know, over time, I just learned, you know, painting back and forth, it's all part of the process. And no paint job is just done in the first set of strokes. As both accomplished painters and accomplished lovers will tell you, the more time and the larger number of strokes you put into it, the better it gets. Except in my case, when it comes to painting, because I do have a point where I can get to just a little bit more. A little bit more. A little bit more. I fucked it up. Mythos does have a touch of a too much gene. One steel Aquila done. No, it has to be perfect or the monster will get you. Yo, Darklight, what was the name of the Gundam card game you were wanting to get into? Yeah, I can't remember the name of that Gundam card game either. Atlas asked me the other day, and I just could not remember for the life of me. I like the silver on the green. Thank you. Steel Aquila number 2 is complete. I think it was just the Gundam TCG. Yeah, I thought it was something like the Gundam card game or something like that. Speaking of TCGs, gents, the Cyber Dragon has been speaking to me lately, and it yearns for battle. We must break out the cards again sometime soon. How many crew in a Baneblade? Huh. That is a good question. Let's go over here. I'm not going to bring up my screen just yet because y'all don't need to see what I've been Googling. All right. Screen share. It looks like the answer is 10 personnel per Baneblade. It includes a tank commander, a driver, and several gunners for the various armaments. Good to know. 10-man crew. Oh, you mentioning earlier, Zai, that you were reading Caiaphas Cain. I started reading Caiaphas Cain as well recently, just this past week, I think. And I just finished the first book, started on the second book. And that's pretty, because just honestly, just seeing the model, like I've had it in my library to read for a while. And I've just not done it. But seeing the model revealed kind of put me in the mood to read the Caiaphas Cain. Plus, it also kind of helped feed my inspiration for painting some guard projects to read a guard book, if that makes any sense. And anyways, for some reason, I was slow to get into the first Caiaphas Cain book, but like going back and, reading it again, it was, I don't know, the second time was much more enjoyable. Maybe because I was inspired at the time by seeing the model, but for whatever reason, yeah, I really enjoyed the book this time. It's interesting because if you haven't read any of the Caiaphas Cain books, and I've heard it a bunch of different ways on YouTube. I've heard people say Caiaphas Cain, Caiaphas Cain, but in the audiobooks, they say it with a hard C as Caiaphas, which is why I'm pronouncing it that way. Boom, boom, boom. But yeah, so it's interesting because unlike in most 40K novels, most of the commissars are either fall into the Yarick and Commissar Gaunt, inspirational commissars, or the hard ass, troops are expendable, execute anyone who doesn't serve to my satisfaction, hardliner. There's also a third type covered in some books where it's like the corrupted, drunk with power commissar. And Caiaphas Cain is a very, very different commissar. He honestly reminds me of like, what if Han Solo was a 40K commissar? he definitely has a bit of a smuggler's touch about him. A rogue's touch about his personality, his way of thinking. You know, um, he's got like a sense of self-preservation. He's not a selfless commissar. Um, and and but also he kind of like that's his like inner character, but then that's like also the character he plays. So okay, there is his nature and demeanor, right? And in reading his books, he would have you believe that he's truly a coward and shouldn't be in leadership, and he has to play and put on a persona of caring for his guards and stuff like that because it makes him less likely to be shot in the back and stuff like that. And he quote unquote plays at being an inspirational leader just to make his job easier. And he always talks about his undeserved reputation for being a hero and being inspiring and stuff like that. And you know, he he always makes it a point to tell the reader about how he doesn't actually care for his guards. It's all just for show. But then sometimes you see kind of glimpses where it seems like he does care for them. He's just it almost seems like he tells himself that, he doesn't care to make it easier for himself. I don't think Han would have made it through the Commissar Science School name here. The the Progenium, the Scholar Progenium. Uh, for Atlas says going to be pick up a starter box of the Gundam TCG for sure. Nice. It's also interesting because, and it can't be confirmed, but Caiaphas um, says that his rogue-like nature is because he's a commissar, but born, instead of being born into a noble family, is born in an underhive world. And that he was only recruited for the Scholar Progenium because his parents died in service. But apparently, no records have been able to confirm that. So it's interesting. He's an enigma wrapped in a mystery, veiled in a shroud. If this becomes a thing for the love of the Emperor, don't let Disney get their hands on it. You know, uh, friendly disagreement there. I enjoy, and I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I enjoy um, Disney's take on Star Wars. For instance, The Mandalorian is my favorite Star Wars thing. Well, not favorite Star Wars thing ever, but Star Wars movie slash, I mean, show ever. Or I would say my favorite thing is still the Knights of the Old Republic games, but after Knights of the Old Republic, yeah, Mandalorian is my favorite Star Wars thing ever. And that includes the controversial Boba Fett and quote unquote Fat Boba. Which, as a chubby man myself, I can't begrudge a man for gaining some weight in his elder years. Apparently, this whole painting episode here is going to be the lead belcher episode. I would love to see Hans Crew though if he was a rogue trader. It's true. Rogue traders can get up to some crazy stuff. I need to catch up on the Mandalorian. Oh man, definitely. I highly recommend it. It's so good. I want to. I have on the my family. We have a calendar on the fridge. Of things that each person of the family's got going on, and on the notes I have for us that sometime after the 22nd, we need to find a date for all of us to watch The Mandalorian together and go to the theater. Unfortunately, I think my kids are all tied up this weekend, but hopefully sometime soon. It's a shame everyone's busy because, the old man doing audit stuff all week. I could really use some time at the theater, but I guess the old man, just have to sit here and be burnt out from his audit and not get any Mandalorian. I'm an Asian parent, everyone, so I've got to practice my guilt tripping. What species in the 40K universe do you think Chewie would be? Honestly, as much as um, I am part of the camp of people in the 40K fandom that would like to think of felinids as sexy Neko girls. Uh, some of the description, or at least one of the descriptions of felinids, do sound a bit more like a very agile Chewie than a anime style cat girl. By the way, I did that YouTube short showcase on my Kazarkin cat girls, a long time ago, and I still got get comments and views on that all the time. I got another comment on that earlier today. You gonna see the Backrooms movie? Oh, I definitely want to see the Backrooms too. I have what is that one channel that does all the Backrooms content? Kane Pixel or something like that. Pixel Kane. Anyways, that channel that does all the Backrooms content, I've always enjoyed, and I haven't watched any of that stuff for a few months, but I've always enjoyed his Backrooms content and just a whole movie based around that. Plus, I feel like A24, not every movie from them is great, but like they do some good work. All right, we got the tow hooks. Gonna have to do the lights at some point. I think I'm gonna wait until after the weathering to do the lights. Because I don't want to do the lights and then get the brighter material dirty. I guess I can do the outside casing for the lights. Actually, I guess it doesn't matter. I guess it depends on what color lights I do back here. Because if I do them as red, like brake lights, I imagine they'd be dull because, unless just these brakes are always on, they'd be kind of dull. Atlas. Now, I know your Baneblade is third party. Have you ever seen a shrine like this on a guard tank before? And if so, do you have any reference pictures of how people usually paint this shrine? And again, if any other guard players have any insight to that, let me know. Hello, Mythos. Hello, Mini Warmut. Brother Brian, I hope you're doing well. I am several videos behind on your channel, sir. I need to definitely go in and catch up. Watch some of that sweet solo roleplay action you've been doing. What do you think, Brian? I'm actually getting some painting done tonight instead of just yapping my gums tonight. If I can fix my lighting situation, I might do these a little more often. Of course, I'm not always going to have a nice, big, sweet tank to do, but it's a good starting point, I think. Should have been the name of the stream. Wolfbrother Mythos goes through an entire pot of Leadbelcher in one stream. It's kind of fitting that I'm painting all this armor to help me buy armor for my upcoming Iron Warriors. Because Iron Warriors are definitely about, their siegecraft, often including tanks and vehicles and stuff like that. And it's just a very fitting theme. Once again, we're going to rotate the model. Easier than trying to paint in different directions. Oh, Darklight, I feel like my YouTube music is trying to take me back in the day. I've had autoplay on, and twice now when I've gotten to the end of my music playlist, it'll just play something recommended for you. And Cry Little Sister from The Lost Boys has been coming on my autoplay like twice this week. Trying to take me back to the 80s. All right, let's see. One should not paint under the tank. Well, I feel the need to. Fun question. If you could pick one thing to paint that wasn't GW, what would it be? I do enjoy playing Zombicide and plenty of fun miniatures to paint in there. So I think Brian has definitely a good choice. Honestly, one of the things when I got into Warhammer that I really wanted to think about was The Robotech, my first anime ever, as you well know, of course, had some miniatures. Unfortunately, they're not nearly as detailed as Warhammer miniatures, and uh, I've I've gotten spoiled by the level of detail in Warhammer miniatures. But those Robotech miniatures are pretty cool and very close to my childhood. Um, and that being said, whenever the Gundam miniatures come out, they'll definitely be something that similarly has my attention. I think painting up some Gundam would be cool. I have a bunch of Battletech that I've painted, and still more to paint. And I've always found the Battletech to be enjoyable. Uh, they are on a strange scale where, in some ways, they're not as detailed, but they're a smaller scale. So, like, in some ways, they do have some detail that's a little too small for me to paint as well. So it's like it is an interesting mix to try for me to try and figure out what parts I want to paint what color. A little freeform, a little more freeform thinking. Got to bounce. Fun to hear your voice and talk to you. Fine, gents. Again, good to see you, brother. Have a great weekend. And I know I'm giving you a bunch of non-answers. Right now, I'm musing between a bunch of them, and I guess I'll pick something at the end. I haven't heard that song in years. Yeah, me either. It just randomly kept popping up on my feed. I'm stoked about going all in on Zombicide Dead Men Tales. That'll be cool. Dead Men Tales. That sounds like a Western style. Let us pop over to yes, getting some Cry Little Sister for Brother Brian. Here we go. Dead Men Tales. It is fantasy zombicide. Dead Men Tales. Ah, it's more of a piratey thing. That's cool. Man, this I'm so used to the regular zombicide. The map is so different and very pretty looking. That's cool. Forge new stories with the Plague Bearer. What's the Plague Bearer? Oh, so many kinds of zombicide. Fantasy zombicide. Company of the Gallows. Here's some of the cards from this zombicide. The Defilering Monkey. The Cannoneer Monkey. The Gunner Monkey. Dolly the Skelly. The Foul-Mouthed Parrot. The Big Fish. A Keg of Grom. That's cool. Enamel pins. Some swashbuckling with Dead Men Tales. That's cool. Yeah, some pirate zombicide sounds really cool, brother. Release the Kraken. Cry, little sister, thou shalt not fall. Come, come to your brother, thou shalt not die. Unchain me, sister, thou shalt not fear. Love is with your wolf brother. Thou shalt not kill. Check out the sharks. There were sharks. Shark attack. Shark attack. Zombie sharks. Okay, the heroes from this look pretty cool. Tiny Bart. He don't look so tiny. These are some cool looking pirates. 42 zombies. Okay, okay. Sing to yourself, bro. Hey, you got me started. I take no responsibility for this. Okay, did I pass it all up? Where be the sharks? Okay, back at the top. We looking for sharks. We got our pimp cast of characters. We got the walkers. We got the runners and the brutes. We've got an abomination, one abomination and a necromancer called the Govna. That's pretty interesting. On one hand, it's like, oh, one abomination doesn't seem so bad, but then you got a necromancer that can res. You passed it. Okay. From this part here with this little griffin, do I need to go up or down? Because I'm blind. Here be Monsters Abomination Pack. Okay, this is Black Plague, Company of Gallows, Davy Jones's Plunder. Oh. Here we go. Here be monsters. Oh, there's the sharks. Dude, look at those. Those are sick. And a new necromancer, the Tide Witch. Everybody wants their own mermaid princess, don't they? The Wretch Maw. Okay, these are some cool looking abominations. Oh, an anglerfish, the deadlight. Yo, I've got a friend. She's kind of the little sister of our group. She always says the anglerfish is her favorite fish. I feel like I need to paint one of these up for her. The white dread. That's cool. I think out of these, I think the Wretch Maw is my favorite, but at the same time, having an anglerfish zombie is so cool. The skull dice, very cool. Ooh, some lore of the Tide Witch. Once sailors spoke fondly of mermaids over a jack of Grom, whilst under the influence of that potent drink. Their eyes got wistful then. A smile might crack sunburnt cheeks, but now they speak only in whispers of the Tide Witch. Once a mermaid, she's a necromancer now, sickly in her fish belly pale skin and glowing dead eyes. She hardly moves, which might be the only thing in a person's favor. Instead, she draws her prey towards her, and the more filled with Grom they are, the sooner they obey. Watch your drink, pirate, or the last thing you'll ever see are these spectral, baleful eyes. Now, I was wondering when I saw her pose, I was wondering if she might have kind of a siren effect, and that's cool. She draws you to her like a siren. Find it in the accessories. Okay, I will. I do want to look a little bit more through the lore bits real quick. Yeah, it definitely has a siren's vibe, doesn't she? And you get close enough, you get to kiss the hag. The Deadlight, a walking monstrous anglerfish with a luminescent glow. Just what you needed today. Deadlight cannot be killed so long as other zombies are near it, and killing it even then is no small deed. In league with evil powers, it draws zombies to any necromancer in range. Its webbed feet and hands make it equally adept in water, but those legs and arms on make it deadly on land as well. That's gruesome. Very cool. I have from like a horror perspective always like anglerfish as well. Should I take the fourth off? The fourth off for Happy freaking Friday, by the way. I guess it depends what you want to do with it. Oh, that is really well painted. That anglerfish there. That's so cool. Very gruesome. Now these, because I think great whites look cool. The wretch maw, scabrous, rotting skin and exposed ribs. The wretch maw is a horror at sea. If only it would stay there. Sadly, it has limbs to drag it forth onto land, bringing with it a crashing wave of seawater. Its bone spiked tail might take off your head as it lashes violently behind it. But the very unpredictability of the wretch maw is perhaps its most dangerous feature. What's more, from the wrecked chest of the rotting beast burst forth smaller zombies previously consumed. Luck be with you as it decides whether to ground you or eat you on sea or on land. 4th of July, I mean, I suppose that depends on what you want to do with it. But yeah, take the 4th off. Get some you time in, brother. That is gruesome. Just ripping its way out of the side of the wretch maw. That's so gruesome. And then the white dread, a hump like a snow hill, where it made of rotting flesh and exposed bone. The white dread is the target of many an obsessed sailor. Not one have caught him yet, and none are likely to. He's bigger than any 3 ships put in a line and more ferocious than all of their cannons combined. Its maw swallows all in its path, including walkers and runners. Don't worry, it can spit them out as well, so don't hope to the spirits that save you. The white dread comes in on a torrent of water, flooding all before it. Swimming away is ill advised, for the water is where the dread wants you. I wonder how big this thing is. It's probably the size of, takes up a good chunk of a square. It's a Moby Dick. Just to be off. Yeah, man, treat yourself. Take it off. You do you, boo boo. All right. We're going to look at some skull dice. I like that they put in the extra artwork and lore in this section. That's pretty cool. Accessories. Oh, these are cool skull dice. Those are very cool. 6 custom dice. So that's the one. A 6 is a 6. So is this, does the nose count? Is this 3 here? No, this is a 3. So this is just 2. Well, those are cool dice indeed, my brother. What are the dice they got? They got bottles of Grom. They got your little gamer dashboards, extra tiles, fantasy compatibility, extra pirate ghost zombies. That's cool. Well, as a fellow Zombicide fan, thanks for sharing that, brother. That's pretty neat. We're going to go in here and do some touching up with a little tickle. Again, younger painter Mythos would have been livid with all these misstrokes, but I now wonder why I got so mad when you can just paint over it. Sorry, I get excited about the game. I need to get back to the game. No apologies, brother. None whatsoever. Like I said, I enjoy Zombicide too. I enjoy taking the time to look at it. And gave me time to let my silvers dry a little bit and kind of helped me break up the monotony of just laying down silver for 2 hours, you know? Don't get me wrong, this Baneblade has been an absolute pleasure to paint. But yeah, definitely, you know, helps break it up, not just doing a solid hour of silver paint. All right, got a couple more Aquila here where we'll drop some more silver. Are they still 200? This one is a friend's, but I think they are around that much. Let's take a look. Now, I'm sure you can find it just a little bit cheaper, but this is just a quick Google. According to Google, yep, $197 at Target, $167 at Walmart, $197 at Walmart. Flip side, Noble Knight, Baneblade the book. Surprised Amazon's not popping up. Usually Amazon pops up with this kind of thing. These must be Legion Imperialis. There's no way they're selling used Baneblades for $27. See, Amazon, about 740 results. Oh, if you want a fully painted one, there goes one for 5 billies. Amazon's looking about $170. So yes, you are correct. Roughly 200 bucks. What do you think about the Baneblade? I mean, I don't play competitively, so I can't tell you competitively how good they are. I always think that they're pretty strong when I face them. When I see them on the table, they're definitely a known threat that I've got to deal with. So I feel like they're good. But that's just my opinion. Target and Walmart, what? Well, on their websites, yes, but both Walmart and Target have kind of like a resale kind of side to their website. So you can buy things that you wouldn't normally find at a Walmart on the Walmart website. You know, they've got like a little side Amazon thing going on. Let's see. Get a little more of this Nocturne green. And I want to darken this up just a touch. Put in just a tickle of basilicanum. Just darken that down just a little bit. And we're going to spread that to the edges of the panel. So it all blends in a little bit better. All right, let's see. It is 9:30. We're a little bit over, but you know what? I at the very least want to finish with the silver on these Aquila before I call it a night. Besides, I'm just chilling with some friends and laying down a little bit of paint. So it's all gravy, baby. I think, honestly, just painting and chatting with some friends, it's barely like I'm streaming at all. And like I said, my brain, I started tonight with my brain mush. This is exactly what I needed tonight. Just head empty, doing a little painting. A little arts and crafts, right, guys? Oh, Darklight, I totally spaced out on your question. I talk about all the things I do paint other than GW, but I didn't actually make a determination if I had to paint one thing other than GW. Let's see. I really enjoy painting the Star Wars stuff in general. But I probably actually wouldn't settle on Star Wars now that I think about it, just because I think everything's got, its kind of preset colors. If you go with Empire, everything's already a color. If you go with like Clone Troopers, painting just a bunch of white for forever. I guess everything's got, and I guess technically everything's got its canon colors in Warhammer, but I just make room for creativity. So I don't know. I feel like I'd be less inclined to put my own color spins on stuff with Star Wars, though. And maybe this is why people who have been in the hobby so long are so much more hardline about what's supposed to be the quote unquote right colors. Maybe because, I don't know, maybe because I've been a fan of Star Wars longer. I feel like I'd be less likely to put my own spins and just paint the quote unquote proper colors of Star Wars. All right, I'm off to play some Alone Against the Zone, a post-apocalypse solo RPG. The Baneblade looking cool. Keeping an eye out for Dragon Slayer. Take care. Have a good night, brother. I've really enjoyed listening while I work too. Man, thank you, brother. So I was going to say Star Wars, but I think I'm going to retract that answer. Because I'm not sure it would get me as creative as I enjoy being. TNT, maybe? something else fantasy. I have the Halo Flashpoint game. Would I really have gotten into that? That seems pretty cool. I think, especially now that I've built up my skills. No, because then I was going to say, note that it can be anything, even if a model doesn't currently exist. Okay. So my next answer was going to be, on the other hand, Gundam, because I could be super creative with Gundam. However, I think one of the things that keeps me motivated in painting Warhammer is that there is a game attached. But the Gundam miniature game, which I don't know if is out yet, but I could be very interested in when it comes out. I think a Gundam miniatures game would be the right sweet spot of a fandom I'm already attached to, room for creativity, designs I enjoy, and the game aspect to keep me motivated and painting. And it's funny that the game aspect is as motivating for me as it is, but I do find that when I go too long without having a game, and you almost forget, like, why do I push myself for painting all the time? And I know for a lot of like self-motivated people, the answer is that I enjoy painting and I want to get better, right? But also, just like, I don't know, it for me provides that extra layer of motivation, like, oh yeah, because I want to be able to put this cool thing on the tabletop and do cool stuff with it in the gaming sense. And in a way, it kind of fits the same part of my brain that when you get a new weapon or something like that in a video game, you can't wait to try it out, a new skin in a video game. Maybe it's a unit that you've played with before, but it wasn't painted before, and now it's painted. You want to put it on the table. It's like buying a new cosmetic for something in your game. I guess that does factor in. It is similar to a video game in that aspect for me. So which Gundam? Oh man, asking the hard hitting questions now. Which Gundam would I want to paint the most? I don't even remember the name of it, but that Knight Gundam I sent you the other day, that thing was freaking cool. With the big axe. But I would probably want something more storied with a story that I'm familiar with. So honestly, I would probably want a Wing Gundam. Well, maybe. What's really cool about Gundam is that while there are, of course, canon paint styles that are used in the game, or in the series, and in the box art, stuff like that, they release alternate patterns of Gundam. Oh, I just realized I've been painting on the small screen all this time. But while I have the big screen, while we have Big Mythos here, pay no attention to all the junk behind me. Gundam often often releases like alternate color variants here. Like this is Wing Gundam from Gundam Wing, but in this sweet like triple blue color style, where it's like a bold blue, a bright blue, and like a very light, almost teal blue, and white. And this is called the Wing Gundam Sky Zero. So because there are existing, uh, things where known Gundams have alternate color schemes, it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility for me to paint something in that kind of alternate color scheme, or in my own alternate color scheme. So I could kind of get away with doing crazy stuff. I think Wing Gundam would be a pretty cool candidate. Epion, obviously. Ooh, Tallgeese 3 seems like it'd have a lot of cool details to paint too. Of course, Death Scythe is always sweet. I'm not sure I'd vary up. Put my own spin on Death Scythe though, because Death Scythe's got to be, the classic black and white, right? Hmm. Ah, the Barbatos. That would be a cool first one that I would pick. I think the Barbatos sounds like a cool spot. It's got cool colors. If I want to go classic, it definitely has like is a good canvas. I think if I wanted to do something other than its traditional colors, it's got very cool armaments. It uses metal weapons, unlike the Gundams from Gundam Wing. So there wouldn't really be much in the way of being able to do my classic power weapon effects, but I still think it'd be a neat place. Yeah, I think I'm going to lock in final answer. I'd start with the Barbatos. Wait till you hear about Gundam Builders. What's Gundam Builders? Yeah, I'm still a big Mythos. Good choice. Thank you, brother. I started out with it's got to be something from Gundam Wing, right? Yeah, that's the obvious answer. Goes away from my quote unquote obvious answer. Instead of Gundam Wing, we're going to Tekkadan. All right, so now we're going to ask the question that if you're watching either live or from the archives, let me know down in the comments below if you have painted a Gundam, what was your first one? Or if you haven't, which one would you paint first? If you had, if you were so inclined. You know, the way these las cannons and heavy bolters kind of ring, frame the body of the Baneblade. I think getting this painted up here is also helping to kind of, color wise frame the Baneblade. Again, just something more than all of the green. Got to keep checking the thumb to make sure that I'm not accidentally leaving thumbprints. Silver always makes, because I have many times before found silver thumbprints on stuff. And so the silver always makes me a little paranoid. No. I was just mentioning I always worry about mess ups with the silver. Scrubbing brush. Nope. Once again, going in with a little nocturnal green and a touch of basilicanum to darken it down a little. And this is why I tag myself as mildly competent, because I definitely do still make mistakes. There we go. Some quick little touch-ups. Bloop, bloop. At the top of these little switches. Now to do the ones on the inside, what about you, Darklight? I know your painting experience has been a little more limited, but what would you paint up for your first one? I know the unicorn is your favorite, but would that be your first painting project if you were to paint a Gundam? All right, two more sets of heavy bolters, and the guns will be finished. First, we do 4 sets of belts. Hey, kiddo. If I were good. Jehuti. Oh, did I tell you I bought a Jehuti model when I was at Onicon? I still have one new in box that it's in my intention to build and paint at some point. They also had an Anubis, but I didn't have enough money for both. It worked out and they worked it in. Tony has done it again. Thanks to Rick and Morty, I sometimes just get It Feels Good by Tony stuck in my head. From the Purge episode. Yeah, I fully intend for the Jehuti to be a channel thing one day. Break it out and paint it on channel. Especially now that I have a painting set up. But I didn't really have a painting set up at the time. But I was like, so last year when I went to Onicon, I guess Gundam had just started getting popular with some of the Warhammer content creators. And of course, you know, already having, love for Gundam myself. You and I grew up on Wing, and then we slowly got into other Gundams. Um, and so I always intended to add that to my repertoire, and then I came across Jehuti at Onicon and had to snag it right away. And yeah, so I was like, okay, well, Gundam is getting popular with other content creators. Maybe I can do some Jehuti on my channel. But I didn't really have a good setup for painting on my channel at the time, and it just kind of got put into the eventually, one of those eventually video ideas. And I think the box is in my closet right now. But someday I will paint Jehuti on this channel. And who knows, maybe when I go back this year, I would say maybe when I go back this year, they'll still have Anubis, but I got the Jehuti at a decent discount because the guy was going out of business. He said it was going to be his last year there at Onicon because he was getting out into business. So, of course, there are often, vendors there that sell things like Gundam. Maybe one of the other vendors will have it, but that particular vendor will not have the Anubis this time. I found something else to go back and look at on the inspo pics. Okay, nothing on the top and nothing on the side said I needed to paint it on the sponsons. But what about these like circular things next to the cannons? That's got to be something, right? That's got to be something. I'm going to go back in with a little bit of this base color again. And this time we're going to put 2 drops of the silicanum gray in there. Make it a little bit darker. We are going to paint this behind in here. A little cleanup in the back where no one's probably ever going to see anyways, but I would know if I left it a little messy. All right, we're going to go back to our reference pictures one more time. Let's see. All right. Okay, those look like red light sensors on the side of the las cannons. Okay, so I do need to paint them up as some kind of lenses. That is good to know. So that will take some thinking on how I want to paint them up. All right, guys, I think I have made some good progress on this tank for tonight. I think I've gotten through pretty much. I mean, I might go back and do just some other minor tiny pieces, like, a couple of pipes maybe in silver, but I think for the most part, I am all silvered out on this baby. Actually, is that the only thing? Yeah, I might go back and do these just kind of tiny pipes. And you know what? I've got 8 minutes until 10 o'clock proper. While I wasn't necessarily shooting for 10 o'clock, it's a nice even number. Obviously, I don't want to go too crazy with the amount of silver on these, but it just looks like a pipe, right? A pipe is a pipe, no matter the size. Oh, I'm sitting here painting, and I'm still on the. Do you remember anything about your Cyberpunk OC? Yes, I remember. I went for a Street Samurai build, and I imagined my piece of chrome was twofold. I imagined mine having a kind of oh. I imagine mine as having a chromed out arm, especially that could be locked back and loaded for an extra powerful, like I don't know if like hydraulic is the right word, but just a very, very mechanical, very potent slash attack for my Street Samurai. Of course, I think all Street Samurai want the sandy. I'm not sure about that one though. But also like a version of the jump mods for the legs, but not just intended for like, most of the time you get the leg mods to either high jump or double jump. But I would like one that would be a mod for the legs that can be used for like a forward thrust, for just like an extra strong and fast leap forward. Because I think doing that for a between that and the mechanical arm would make for a great dash and slash. And then a little bit of tech, maybe one eye and like the brain piece, so that way I could uh, see things fast enough, see and process things fast enough to do things like cut stuff out of the air. That would be cool. Or a Genji deflect. So, yeah, that was kind of the deal. It is just a fast and efficient Street Samurai. I even toyed with the idea of a fold-out sword, like in like Lightning has, but I decided against it. Just because in playing Cyberpunk 2020, I just grew to enjoy having an actual katana on my hip, walking around on the streets. All right, where did my big old tank barrel go? Oh, that's something I forgot to silver out. What do you guys think? You guys think these pistons around the shaft should all be silvered out, have some sense of metallicness? Would that look would that look gaudy having that much metal? Because there's like quite a few pistons around. Let's look at our inspiration picks again because I am kind of lost on that one. What do? I guess I should actually look at the shadow sword picture. You know, looking at the shadow sword, it doesn't look like they do that. No, it looks like all the pistons and stuff like that are armor colored still. It does look like they kind of chipped and lined around it, to give it some definition. So I might do some chipping to give it some shape. I almost feel like I'm not doing enough to this tank. But, I don't want to do too much. That's how I end up doing too much. Is like, there's not enough. I need to do more. That's how you get yourself in trouble, Mythos. I wonder if there's. I wish I could see the top of it because I'm wondering if. I'm wondering if this vent piece on top here. This is a part that shows on top of the tank. And I'm wondering if that vent piece is colored in any way. I don't know. I guess you wouldn't just have a big silver steel square there, would you? Maybe not. Seems like it'd be too obvious. I gotta remember these military style tanks. They're meant to be camouflaged. I'm doing too much. Very cool OC. Would our characters be siblings given my bio? Man, any chance I get to be your sibling in a story, I'm down for it. So if you're willing, sure, yeah, man, I'd definitely jump at that. Maybe we diverge at some point, when you go corpo, maybe that's when I take to the streets for my street samurai role. do like V and just go the bounty hunter route, bagging and tagging people. All right, guys. I am, like I said, I feel like I'm not doing enough. But at the same time, it's coming together nicely. Obviously, the tracks, the las cannons are way too bright. So that's going to be my next step. Well, actually, that won't quite be my next step yet. First, I need to finish blocking in some colors, like what I'm going to do with the barrels here. Which actually, I might just leave the barrels steel. I've seen some people do that, and I've done that on my own tanks. I just need to paint the whatever's holding the little racks holding the barrels, and just really dirty down the barrels. And then I want to put on the decals before I start my weathering process, because that'll let me weather the decals too and make them kind of blend into, hi Cookie Wookie, blend into the tank a little more. So, barrels, decals, weathering. And if I find anything else I think I need a block off color on, I'll do that too. So by the time you see this next, I should be closer or maybe even done. And of course, there's going to be a lot of, I mean, the client said he wanted some, or my friend said he wanted some weathering. So I'm trying not to go overboard. But it's looking good so far. Aside from the super bright silvers, I think it's looking pretty military. Your character can be the one to offer a hand up when I leave Arasaka. That sounds good, brother. That sounds very good. Yeah, man. Let's work in some details when we get a chance. Maybe over coffee next time. All right, guys. We are a couple minutes past 10. But I've had a good time sitting and painting and hanging out with you guys, chatting. Darklight, thank you so much for keeping me company, as well as everyone else who joined tonight's stream. Some really cool people out there. Fish, Gamesburger, Brother Atlas. Hi, Jingle. Of course, Brother Brian, X-Gear Commander. Had some great people in the chat tonight. Just making sure, try not to leave anyone out. Gamesburger, Brother Zai, of course. Good to have Zai around. Hellworks was in for a minute before you had to go for work. And a Prepper Book Club. So thank you all for joining me tonight. If you guys like tonight's episode, please make sure that you grab up an ox and smash that like button in the name of the Emperor. Drop me some comments down below and feel free to be part of any of tonight's ridiculous conversations. And if you guys are not yet subscribed to myself or any of my friends down in the link tree below, the Friends of Wolfbrother Hobbies, then love to have you as part of the pack here at Wolfbrother Hobbies. So subscribe. Until next time, guys, stay frosty.